never fall in love with a billionaire's daughter. That was the only rule I had to follow this summer. Just one rule. And right now, I was about to completely ruin my life. All right, guys, let's be completely real for a second. I only needed 3 months. 3 months of absolute uninterrupted grind, zero drama, and zero distractions. That was the exact amount of time I had left to save up the final tuition deposit for this incredibly elite, impossibly expensive fashion academy in Paris. If I didn't get the cash together by the end of the summer, my spot was gone. Finished. Game over. So when I landed a temporary assistant gig at this ultra-luxury coastal mansion perched high on the cliffs of Whale Beach in Sydney, I honestly thought the universe was finally doing me a massive favor. The house belonged to Victoria Sterling, who is literally the most ruthless, globally famous fashion tycoon in the Southern Hemisphere. The pay was absolutely life-changing, and the estate looked like a multi-million-dollar architectural paradise of glass, white concrete, and sweeping views of the roaring Pacific Ocean. My plan was so simple, guys. Put my head down, unpack my sewing machine, organize the heavy textile swatches, and count down the days until my flight out of New South Wales. Everything was going exactly according to script, until my second hour on the job. I was standing in the middle of my tiny staff room in the estate's private guest wing. The humid Sydney heat was rolling off the ocean outside, and I'd tied my long pink hair back into this high ponytail just to keep it off my face. I was mid-motion, carefully setting my modern white sewing machine on the polished wooden desk, when this sudden low electronic chime echoed from the wall panel. The massive floor-to-ceiling glass pool doors slowly slid open. And guys, my breath was instantly snatched straight out of my lungs. Stepping out of the blinding afternoon sun and directly into my room was this girl. She was dripping wet from the infinity pool, and her rich brown hair was cascading perfectly over her bare sun-warmed shoulders in these wet, glossy waves. And oh my gosh, she wore nothing but a daring white designer bikini under this loose, premium white silk cover-up that hung completely open, draping elegantly over a flawless high society silhouette. She had diamonds glinting on her fingers and this overwhelming aura of untouchable, effortless wealth. Holy moly. Who is this gorgeous creature? Like, did a literal supermodel just wander into my staff quarters? Wait, Roxy, no, calm down. Stop staring at her face. Face your work, mate. You are here to work. Think of the croissants. Do not look at her waist. She stopped dead center in the middle of the threshold, tilting her head back slightly as her piercing green eyes locked directly onto mine. And she didn't look at me with corporate indifference, guys. She slowly and deliberately looked me up and down, this lazy, incredibly seductive smirk stretching across her lips as she studied my long pink hair and my basic work clothes. "You're cute," she murmured. "And guys," her voice was this smooth, low purr that sent a jolt of pure, unadulterated electricity straight up my spine. I nearly dropped my heavy, leather-bound fashion sketchbook right onto the timber floorboards. My heart began doing a violent, dangerous dance inside my chest, and my face instantly heated up into a furious, burning, warm pink blush. I scrambled to find my professional voice, clutching my sketchbook tightly against my chest like a protective shield. "I thank you," I stammered, my independent, working-class armor completely short-circuiting under her intense gaze. "I'm Roxy. I'm the new temporary assistant for Miss Sterling." Her smirk only widened, this calculating, deeply amused glint flickering in her green eyes as she took a slow, deliberate step closer across the rug, completely invading my personal space. She reached out a slender, sun-warmed hand and gently tapped the silver fabric measuring tape draped around my neck. "I know exactly who you are, Roxy," she whispered, leaning in just close enough for me to smell the intoxicating aroma of expensive coconut sun oil and fresh ocean air clinging to her skin. Wait, how does she know my name? Did she read my file? Why is she still standing this close? Can this girl actually leave so I can remember how to breathe? My personal space is literally crying right now. She turned around slowly to walk back toward the pool, the silk cover-up billowing behind her profile. She paused right at the glass threshold to look back over her shoulder, giving me this slow, devastating wink. I'm Shayla, the boss's daughter. See you tomorrow, Paris girl. The door slid shut behind me. Silence. I stared at the spot where she'd been standing. Then I looked down and realized I'd been holding my measuring tape so tightly my knuckles had gone white. 3 months. 0 distractions. I was already in trouble. Right, guys, so I tried telling myself that the first day was just a massive fluke, yeah? I spent the whole night literally tossing and turning on this concrete hard mattress in my staff quarters, staring at the ceiling while the Sydney tide was slamming against the cliffs outside. My brain was on a loop replaying her lazy smirk, and I was just like, Roxy, mate, pull yourself together. You're an adult. You're a professional. The goal is simple. Survive 90 days in New South Wales, grab the cash, and get your pink hair on a flight to Paris. Easy, right? Nah. Dead set wrong, guys. Because by Monday morning, I realized Shayla Sterling does not play by the rules. She literally made it her life's mission to ensure I didn't get a single second of peace. So it's like 8 a.m., right? I'm in the estate's massive, hyper-modern kitchen, and I just poured myself a much-needed flat white. I sat down at the white marble island to sort out the inventory list for her mom's autumn textile swatches. Standard work stuff, but before I can even take a sip, this shadow falls over my laptop screen. I look up, and guys, my heart instantly did a massive backflip against my ribs. Shayla is standing right next to my stool. She's got her long brown hair up in this messy topknot, and she's wearing an oversized designer linen shirt just hanging off one shoulder. No good morning? No, how are you going? Nothing. She just reaches out, takes my flat white directly out of my hand, and takes a slow, deliberate sip while locking her piercing green eyes dead center onto mine. Like, the absolute audacity. Excuse me, did she just steal my caffeine? My precious, life-saving espresso? And why is she looking at me like I'm the breakfast menu? Roxy, do not look at her bare shoulder. Focus on the spreadsheet. Too bitter, she murmurs, putting the cup down with this cheeky little smirk. You need to learn how to live a little Paris, girl. I swallowed so hard, guys. My face went an immediate, aggressive shade of pink, and I desperately tried to hide it by staring at my keyboard. I was like, I like it bitter and Ms. Sterling, and I'm actually on the clock. If your mom catches me slacking... My mom is in a virtual board meeting with her European team until noon, she says, smooth as silk. And she doesn't even move away. Instead, she literally slides onto the marble counter right next to my stool, sitting so close that the linen of her shirt is brushing my arm. Gosh, this girl smelled like elite coconut sun oil and insanely expensive perfume. It was messing with my head. Then she leans down, faces inches from mine, and whispers, and stop calling me Emma Sterling. It makes me feel like my mother. Call me Shayla. I'm trying to breathe, guys, but my voice is literally shaking. I'm here to work, Shayla, and I'm helping, she whispers, and her green eyes drop to my lips for a heavy, suffocating second before snapping back. I'm like, by stealing my coffee and sitting on my desk. Exactly, she smiles, totally amused. A good assistant needs to learn how to handle high-stress environments. Consider me your final exam. Final exam? More like a mental health hazard. If she doesn't move her face away in 3 seconds, I am going to spontaneously combust right here on the marble. But, oh my gosh, the real test happened 3 hours later. Mrs. Sterling finishes her meeting and gives me my first official task. I have to go up to the West Wing and catalog Shayla's private wardrobe archive. Sounds easy, right? Except I open the doors, and it's not a closet, it's a multi-million-dollar museum of vintage Chanel and silk couture gowns. And standing right in the middle of the room, holding this stunning, totally backless emerald green silk dress, is Shayla. Her brown hair is down now, cascading perfectly. Perfect timing, Paris, she purrs, turning around. I need an expert opinion and a bit of manual labor. I'm clutching my digital iPad against my chest like a shield, trying to stay professional. Mrs. Sterling asked me to log the inventory numbers, not act as a personal stylist. My mom isn't the one wearing the dress, she counters, stepping closer across the plush white rug until she completely erases the space between us. The contrast between my basic work clothes and her effortless luxury was just ridiculous, guys. Then she turns her back to me, holds her brown hair up off her neck, and exposes the most flawless skin of her bare spine. The zipper is stuck. Be a sweetheart and fix it for me. My breath hitched completely, guys. My limbs went heavy. I hesitated, my pulse racing erratically before I slowly stepped into her space. My fingers were visibly trembling as I reached out to grab the cold metal zipper at the small of her back. And the exact second my knuckles accidentally brushed against her. Bare back? Holy heck! A jolt of pure electricity ripped straight up my spine. I literally shuddered. I could feel Shayla's chest freeze mid-breath. She didn't even pull away. In the massive mirrors on the wall, I could see her green eyes darkened into this deep forest green, silently devouring my reaction through the reflection. "You're shaking, Roxy," she whispers, her low voice vibrating in the quiet heat of the room. Am I really that distracting? I forced the zipper up with a sharp, ragged breath and stepped back immediately to save my sanity. "The zipper is fixed, Shayla. I need to get back to the inventory." She turns around slowly, the emerald silk draping flawlessly over her figure. She looked impossibly beautiful, dangerous, and completely captivating. She takes a slow, deliberate step toward me, this knowing smirk on her lips as she looks down at my pink hair, my totally flustered face. "You can run numbers all day, Paris girl," she murmurs, her voice dropping to a rough, quiet whisper that sent a shiver down my spine. "But we both know you're not thinking about the inventory anymore." Guys, I had to squeeze my eyes shut. She was 100% right. The unsaid tension between us was getting so thick and suffocating, and the summer had barely even started. All right, guys, so by the third week of my summer contract in Sydney, my official job description had completely gone out the window. I wasn't just a fashion assistant anymore. I had accidentally become Shayla Sterling's personal, 24/7 entertainment system. This girl was literally calling me up to her private West Wing bedroom on the intercom every 2 hours for the most ridiculous emergencies. One time she called me up completely frantic, and when I burst through the door expecting a fashion crisis, she was just sitting on her massive bed pointing at her TV like, "Roxy, mate, I can't find the Netflix remote, help me." Like, are you actually serious right now? Another time she made me walk all the way up 3 flights of stairs just to open a window because she didn't want to ruin her manicure. She is testing you, Roxy. She is trying to see how long it takes before you throw a bolt of silk at her gorgeous face. Stay professional. Think of Paris. Think of the croissants. Do not look at how cute she looks when she pouts. But the real tea dropped on a Thursday afternoon. I was down in the mansion's massive laundry pavilion sorting out velvet swatches when 2 of the senior estate maids, Chloe and Sarah, walked in. They looked at me, then looked at each other, and immediately started smirking. Chloe leans over and goes, "So, Roxy, how are you finding the West Wing? We've never seen Miss Shayla use the intercom so much in her entire life." I immediately went bright red, guys. I stammered, She just has a lot of inventory requests." Sarah snorted. "Honey, please. Shayla hasn't spoken more than 3 words to the staff in 2 years. Before you got here with that pink hair, she was completely cold, stubborn, and spent her whole life locked in her room blasting angry indie music or fighting with her mom. She ignored every single wealthy suitor her parents brought around. But now, she's literally glowing and laughing. You've turned the Ice Queen into a human." Wait, what? She's usually a cold recluse, and I'm the one making her laugh. Oh no, no. Do not let your chest get warm, Roxy. This is a trap. She is just bored and rich. Before I could even process that gossip, my radio bleeped again. Roxy, my room. Now, I marched up to her suite, ready to lay down some strict employee boundaries. I knocked, walked in, and froze. Shayla was sitting at a glass table on her private balcony overlooking Whale Beach, and spread out in front of her was a massive gourmet room service spread. Truffle fries, Wagyu sliders, the works. "Sit," Shayla commanded, pointing a French fry at an empty chair. "Shayla, I have to finish labeling the leather swatches. "You're too skinny, Paris girl," she interrupted, looking me up and down with this intensely stubborn, protective glare. "You've been skipping lunch to work on my mother's lookbooks. Sit down and eat, or I'm calling my mom to tell her you're a terrible assistant." Wow. Shayla and Ice won blackmail via Wagyu sliders. Truly, the rich are diabolical, but also, why is my heart doing a stupid little flutter because she noticed I skipped lunch? Stop it, Roxy. I sat down and started eating, and guys, the food was incredible. But as the afternoon faded into twilight, the weirdest thing happened. Shayla actually stopped teasing me. She sat back, watching me eat with this incredibly soft, quiet expression in her green eyes. We ended up just talking for hours about the most random things, laughing until our stomachs hurt. For a second, I completely forgot she was a billionaire's daughter. I felt so safe, the humid Sydney breeze blowing through the open balcony doors. In fact, I got too comfortable. I was sitting on her plush sheepskin rug, auditing a fabric manifest on my iPad, when my eyelids just got incredibly heavy. The next thing I knew, a blinding ray of morning sunshine hit my face. I violently gasped, sitting up so fast I almost gave myself whiplash. I was still on Shayla's bedroom floor. It was 7 a.m., and lying right on the edge of the mattress above me, her head resting on her arm, was Shayla. She was already awake, her ginger hair beautifully messy, staring down at me with this incredibly lazy, breathtakingly soft smirk. "Morning, sleepyhead," she purred. My heart literally leaped straight into my throat, my face bursting into a furious crimson blush. I scrambled to my feet, fixing my rumpled clothes in a total panic. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep in your room. Relax, Roxy." Shayla laughed softly, her ocean blue eyes crinkling at the corners with this warm, addictive affection. She sat up, stretching elegantly. "You didn't do anything wrong. Honestly, it's the first time in years I've actually slept well. Guys, I fled that room so fast I almost tripped over my own sneakers. My mind was spinning into pure, unadulterated chaos. She wasn't just crushing anymore, she was weaving herself into my entire life, and my defenses were completely crumbling to dust. 3 weeks. That was all it had taken. 3 weeks for Shayla Sterling to turn my carefully organized life completely upside down. 3 weeks for her to become the first person I looked for every morning. And that terrified me more than losing Paris ever could. All right, guys, if you thought the bedroom sleepover situation was absolute chaos, grab your popcorn, because what happened next literally redefined the word messy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, my darlings. It helps the growth of the channel. Thank you. After waking up on her floor, I spent the next 48 hours actively sprinting in the opposite direction every time I heard Shayla's boots clicking down the hallway. Professional boundaries, Roxy. You are a corporate ghost. She does not see you. You do not see her. Paris. Think of the fashion runway. Do not think about her messy ginger hair or how soft her voice was in the morning. But the universe clearly had other plans for my sanity, guys. It was a scorching Saturday afternoon, and the Sydney sun was absolutely beaming down on Whale Beach. Mrs. Sterling was hosting this ultra-high society lunch in the main courtyard, and she frantically radioed me to fetch a rare silk fabric swatch sample from the outdoor pavilion. I was in a total rush, carrying a massive stack of heavy lookbooks in one arm and the silk swatch in the other, practically power walking along the edge of the estate's giant glass infinity pool. And of course, who else would be lounging by the pool but Shayla? She was lying on a designer towel, looking like an absolute supermodel in a black bikini, oversized sunglasses, and her stunning ginger hair tied back in a loose bun. The second she saw my long pink hair rushing past, she pulled her sunglasses down her nose and her ocean blue eyes locked onto me with this cheeky smirk. "Careful, Paris girl. You're moving a bit fast for a hot day." I turned my head to yell back, "I'm on a deadline, Shayla." And that, guys, was my fatal mistake, because the exact second I turned my head, my sneaker hit a slick patch of wet towel right by the deep end. My foot completely slipped. The lookbooks went flying into the air like confetti, and before I could even scream, I crashed straight backward into the water. Splash! Now, here's a fun fact about me, guys. I am a shocking swimmer. Like, genuinely terrible. The weight of my wet clothes immediately started dragging me down into the deep end, and the pool water was bubbling over my nose. Panic completely set in. I was flailing my arms, sinking fast, and my vision was going totally blurry under the turquoise water. My head smashed against the pool wall on the way down. I seriously thought, this is it. Roxy, you are drowning in a billionaire's pool before you even see Paris. And then I saw this sudden flash of movement. Through the bubbles, a silhouette dived perfectly into the pool. A second later, a pair of powerful arms wrapped securely around my waist from behind, hoisting my body upward. Shayla kicked hard against the tiles, breaking the surface and dragging me straight toward the concrete deck. I was coughing and sputtering, my lungs burning as she hauled my soaking wet body flat onto the pool deck tiles. I was half conscious, my eyes fluttering shut as I choked on the water. The next thing I felt was this sharp, desperate pressure on my chest. Shayla was frantically pressing down on my sternum. Her voice was completely stripped of her usual cheeky, flirty tone. She sounded genuinely terrified. "Roxy, come on, mate, breathe. Don't you dare do this to me." Then she leaned down, her lips forcefully and desperately clamped straight over mine, delivering a sharp, ragged breath of air directly into my lungs. Guys, my eyes instantly snapped wide open. I gasped, violently coughing up a mouthful of pool water onto the side of the deck. But as my vision cleared, the entire world completely stopped spinning. Shayla was hovering directly over me, her knees pinned on either side of my hips on the wet concrete. Her long ginger hair was dripping wet, ocean blue water droplets falling straight from her hair onto my face, and her chest was heaving heavily against mine. But it was her face, guys. She didn't look like a smug billionaire's daughter anymore. Her gorgeous ocean blue eyes were wide, completely bloodshot with panic and trembling with a raw, terrifying intensity. Our mouths were literally millimeters apart. The lingering warmth of her lips was still burning against mine, creating this intense electric static in the air between us. "Gosh, you're alive," she whispered, her low voice completely cracking with an emotion so heavy it physically hurt. Her fingers reached out, visibly shaking as she gently tucked a wet strand of pink hair behind my ear. "Don't ever scare me like that again, Roxy. I mean it. Holy heck." She jumped in for me. She saved my life. And right now, she's looking at me with those ocean blue eyes like I am the only thing keeping her anchored to the earth. Gosh, my heart is slamming so hard against my ribs she has to feel it. I stared straight up into her blue eyes, my breath hitched completely in my throat, my face burning into a deep, prominent crimson blush despite the cold pool water. The unsaid tension between us had just completely broken into something entirely different. It wasn't just playful flirting anymore. As we lay there on the wet deck, bathed in the blinding Sydney sun, the sheer, suffocating chemistry between us was so loud I was terrified she could hear my pulse racing. I was completely unraveled, and there was absolutely no turning back. All right, guys, if you thought the pool rescue was the peak of the drama, you are dead set wrong. After that mouth-to-mouth situation on the deck, the entire mansion was practically humming with this weird electric tension. It didn't help that Shayla was constantly around. To be fair, she technically held a senior position in the Sterling fashion group, but judging by how much time she spent tormenting me, you'd never know it. She was supposed to be running international marketing, but instead, she was running circles around my sanity. The real boiling point happened a week later. Mrs. Sterling was hosting this massive, ultra-exclusive charity gala at the estate to launch her new spring line. The entire Sydney elite showed up, billionaires, models, politicians, the whole lot. Because I was just the temporary assistant, I was stuck wearing basic black tailored trousers and a simple cream silk blouse, helping the catering staff organize the champagne trays in the main pavilion. My long pink hair was pinned up in a neat twist, and I was trying my absolute best to blend into the background. You are a professional wallflower, Roxy. Do not look at the guests. Do not look for ginger hair. Just make sure the champagne flutes are full and think about Paris. But blending in became physically impossible the second Shayla walked down the grand marble staircase. Guys! My breath was instantly snatched straight out of my lungs. She looked impossibly beautiful, dangerous, and completely out of my league. Her stunning ginger hair was styled in sleek, cascading Hollywood waves, and she was wearing a jaw-dropping, backless navy blue silk gown that perfectly accentuated her elegant figure -8 silhouette. Her striking ocean blue eyes were scanning the crowd, completely ignoring the line of wealthy, suit-clad male heirs trying to buy her a drink. She wasn't looking at them. She was looking for me. And when she finally spotted my pink hair by the bar, this slow, knowing smirk stretched across her lips. She marched straight past a group of high society investors, weaving through the elite crowd until she was standing mere inches away from my catering station. Before I could even stammer out a greeting, one of the snobbish senior marketing directors, a woman named Vanessa, walked up to us with a wine glass. She looked at me, then looked at how close Shayla was standing to me, and gave this passive-aggressive sniff. "So, Shayla," Vanessa purred, her eyes dripping with judgment, "we've all noticed you spending an awful lot of time in the assistant quarters lately. How long have you two been together?" My heart violently slammed against my ribs. I literally choked on my own breath, my face bursting into a furious, prominent crimson blush. I opened my mouth to scramble for an excuse, but before I could even speak, Shayla leaned her elbow casually on the bar and boldly retorted without a single care. "Oh, only emotionally," Shayla smiled, her ocean blue eyes glittering with total defiance. Vanessa's jaw literally dropped, and she scurried away in pure shock. I turned to Shayla, panicking. "Shayla, are you insane? Your mother is standing right over there. People are going to talk. Let them," Shayla whispered. And right there in front of the entire elite Sydney crowd, Shayla reached down, firmly grabbed my hand, and locked her fingers tightly through mine. She didn't care who was watching. She completely disowned the high society script, pulling my rigid body away from the catering trays and dragging me through the grand glass doors out onto the empty, candlelit stone balcony overlooking Whale Beach and the moonlit coastline. The night air was crisp, the violent waves of the Pacific Ocean crashing against the cliffs far below us. It was completely quiet, isolated from the roaring party inside. Shayla turned around, trapping my body lightly against the stone balcony railing. She still hadn't let go of my hand. The playful, cheeky mask she usually wore was entirely gone, replaced by an ocean of raw, suffocating devotion. "You know everyone thinks we're dating," she murmured, her low, gravelly voice sending a delightful shiver straight down my spine. I let out a soft, nervous, and completely breathless laugh, my heart hammering like crazy. They're ridiculous, Shayla. We're from two completely different worlds." Shayla took a slow, deliberate step closer, completely erasing the final inches of physical distance until her front was pressed lightly against mine. She reached up with her free hand, her long fingers gently, tenderly brushing a strand of my pink hair behind my ear, her thumb tracing my jawline. "Are they?" she whispered, her voice dropping to a rough, quiet hiss that scorched my very soul. I froze, completely paralyzed under her touch. Her striking ocean blue eyes were dark, wide, and staring straight down at my lips. She leaned down the final inch. I tilted my head up, my eyes fluttering shut, completely surrendering to the heat. Our noses softly brushed together, our lips literally a millisecond away from touching as we breathed in the exact same air in the dark. I wanted it so bad, guys. The audience inside didn't matter. The wealth gap didn't matter. We were in the middle of a devastating, breathless collision. Shayla. The freezing, authoritative voice cut through the dark air like a physical blade. Both of us violently jumped apart, our eyes snapping open. Standing in the shadows of the balcony doorway, her arms crossed and her face a mask of cold, unadulterated fury, was Victoria Sterling. Right, guys, so when Victoria Sterling walked onto that balcony in her corporate armor and dropped that ice-cold line, I dead set thought my life was over. I stood there clutching my dress hem, completely waiting for the immediate termination, the industry blacklisting, and the final walk of shame back to my staff quarters. Well, it was a good run, Roxy. You almost got tasted by a gorgeous ginger heiress, and now you're going to be blacklisted from the entire Southern Hemisphere fashion industry before you even step foot in Europe. Brilliant. Absolutely superb. But instead of firing me on the spot, Mrs. Sterling just fixed us with this terrifying, calculated glare and called Shayla into her private executive office. And oh my gosh, guys, the entire mansion could hear the absolute shouting match that followed. I was hiding in the adjacent corridor, only catching these muffled, chaotic fragments through the heavy timber doors. It was all, absolutely not, and you're embarrassing this family, Shayla, and she is an employee. Then, absolute dead silence. Cut to the next morning. I woke up and guys, Shayla had completely vanished. No random texts, no intercom buzzes, no cheeky coffee theft, nothing. The West Wing was completely dead, and honestly, I hate to admit it, but I actually missed it, which completely annoyed me. Oh, brilliant. Now you're moping because the billionaire's daughter isn't bothering you? Pull yourself together, mate. But at 10 a.m., a senior state driver knocked on my door and goes, "Miss Sterling requires your presence immediately." I walked out to the driveway, and instead of a regular town car, there's a massive luxury van that whisks me straight to a private corporate hangar at Sydney Airport. I stepped onto the tarmac, and there is a sleek private jet waiting. Standing right by the stairs, wearing massive designer sunglasses and looking completely aggressively unbothered by her mother's rage, was Shayla. Her stunning ginger hair was loose over her shoulders. I marched up to her, totally flustered. "Shayla, are you completely out of your mind? What is this?" She pulled her sunglasses down, her striking ocean blue eyes sparkling with this cheeky, victorious grin. "Mandatory venue audit, Paris girl. Get on." "That sounds completely fake," I stammered. "Because it is," she smirked, totally amused. "Shayla, be serious for 1 second. How did you even convince your mom to approve this?" "I didn't." "What?" "The island audit was a real report. I just changed the staffing list." "You changed the staffing list?" "I'm a director, Paris girl. I sign half the paperwork in this company." "Your mother is going to sack me." "No." "You seem very confident about that, because if she tries, she'll have to explain why she fired the assistant who followed an official company assignment." Okay, I accepted that and moved on. And guys, the private island was a total paradise nestled in the Great Barrier Reef. But it wasn't just a boring luxury vacation montage, yeah? Because for the first time in the entire story, there was zero pressure. No Victoria, no corporate boardrooms, no rich suitors, and no staff. It was just the two of us. And without her mother's suffocating shadow, Shayla turned into a literal chaotic menace. We had these mini adventures that were absolute disasters, guys. On day 2, we had a cooking competition because the kitchen staff had left us alone. Neither of us can cook to save our lives. Within 20 minutes, the ultra-luxury kitchen became a total war zone. I had flour stuck in my pink hair. Shayla accidentally dropped an entire block of expensive cheese into the blender without putting the lid on, and the whole place was a smoky mess. We ended up sitting on the floor eating burnt toast and laughing until our stomachs ached. Then, she insisted on driving us around the estate lagoons in a custom golf cart. She was like, "Trust me, Roxy, I'm a licensed professional." Guys, she absolutely was not. 5 minutes later, she completely lost control of the steering wheel and rammed us directly into a massive hibiscus bush. I was laughing so hard I literally couldn't breathe, watching this elite high-fashion corporate executive covered in loose pink petals, trying to push a golf cart out of a garden grid. But the real shift happened on day 4. We were exploring these hidden sandstone caves along the private tide pools. The ground was super slick, and I completely lost my footing on a mossy rock, about to wipe out. Suddenly, Shayla lunged forward and grabbed my hand tightly, pulling me steady. And guys, she didn't let go. We kept walking through the dark caves for 20 minutes, her long fingers locked firmly and securely through mine. Neither of us mentioned it. Neither of us looked down. But the electric static running up my arm was driving me completely insane. And for the first time since I met her, I noticed something huge. She wasn't just doing her usual flirty teasing or her smug smirking. When she looked at me after the golf cart crash, she gave me this real, radiant smile that completely crinkled the corners of her ocean blue eyes. It was this deep, genuine happiness that reached all the way to her soul. She was finally free. I've never seen her smile like this. Not the tease, not the corporate mask. A real smile. Gosh, she is so beautiful it actually hurts my chest. I want to keep her like this forever. But that absolute peace is exactly what made the final night feel so heavy, guys. It was close to midnight. The tropical humidity had dropped, and the entire private beach was illuminated by this massive, glowing Australian moon reflecting off the ocean waves. Shayla had built a giant bonfire on the sand, the orange flames casting long shadows against the palms. We were sitting on a beach towel, inches apart. For the first time all week, the chaotic games completely stopped. She wasn't teasing me. She wasn't smiling. Her ginger hair was falling softly over her shoulders as she just stared intensely into the fire, her fingers tightly clutching her wine glass. Something about the silent, heavy look in her ocean blue eyes made my stomach completely drop. She turned her head slowly, looking straight into my eyes under the moonlight. "Roxy," she murmured, her low, gravelly voice carrying a quiet, suffocating weight. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone before?" When she looked at me under that massive Great Barrier Reef moon and dropped that line, my stomach literally did a freefall. The playful, chaotic energy from the golf cart disaster and the kitchen flower wars just evaporated into the night air. The only sound left was the steady, rhythmic crash of the Pacific tide hitting the outer reef. Oh gosh, this is it. The playful mask is completely off. She looks so small right now, huddled in that giant gray sweater. "Roxy, stay grounded. Be her anchor, whatever she's about to say." Shayla shifted on the beach towel, her bare feet digging nervously into the white sand as she stared back down at the dancing orange flames of the bonfire. She swallowed hard, her long fingers tightening around her wine glass until her knuckles went pale. "My dad used to love the ocean," she whispered, her low, gravelly voice cracking slightly on the very first word. "Before my mother turned the Sterling label into a global empire, we used to live in this tiny, regular house in Adelaide. Dad would take me down to the beach every single weekend. No bodyguards, no corporate schedules, no private jets, just cheap ice cream, regular parks, and him actually listening to me. He was my absolute safe space, Roxy." I leaned in closer, my long pink hair brushing against my shoulder as I softly placed my hand over hers on the sand, completely throwing out any remaining employee boundaries. "What happened, Shayla?" Shayla stared into the flames for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. A thick, stinging tear rolled over her long eyelashes, tracing a wet line down her cheek in the firelight. "He passed away when I was 12, she confessed, her voice violently trembling as the emotional dam completely burst. "A sudden heart attack. And guys, the worst part? My mother didn't even grieve. The exact day after his funeral, she went straight back into the corporate office. She completely buried her humanity in the business. She stopped being a mother and turned into this ruthless, cold money miser who treats everyone, including me, like a transaction, a sterling asset to be traded away for international market shares." I felt this sudden hot surge of protective fury flare up in my chest, guys. I squeezed her hand tighter, listening to the raw, suffocating loneliness she'd been carrying in that glass Sydney fortress for 15 years. She spent my entire 20s trying to map out my life, forcing these wealthy, arrogant tech bro heirs onto me at galas just to secure corporate mergers, Shayla sobbed, her face turning a prominent, warm pink as she openly cried under the stars. She turned her upper body completely toward me, her striking ocean blue eyes looking straight into mine with this devastating, agonizing vulnerability. "I'm so tired of being an empire, Roxy. I hate it. I wish someone would just choose me instead of my last name. I wish someone would look at me and actually see me." Oh my gosh. Poor Shayla. She's completely unraveled. She isn't playing a game. She's just a girl who has been desperately wishing to be loved for who she is, not what she inherits. I just want to protect her. I didn't even care about the consequences anymore, guys. I surged forward, wrapping my arms securely around her waist and pulling her shaking body flush against my chest. Shayla didn't hesitate for a single millisecond. She instantly collapsed into my embrace, burying her face deeply into the crook of my neck, her fingers desperately clutching the back of my sweater like I was her only lifeline in a storm. I held her tightly against the cold coastal breeze, my fingers gently tangling into her ginger hair as she let out these deep, ragged sobs against my skin. I could feel the frantic, violent rhythm of her heartbeat slamming straight against my ribs, completely merging with mine. And as we sat there on that private beach in the absolute dark, I finally admitted the terrifying, beautiful truth to myself. Later, I noticed Shayla had fallen asleep against my shoulder. The bonfire was dying, ocean waves crashing, moonlight everywhere. I looked at her beautiful sleeping face and brushed her ginger hair out of her face. I wasn't just crushing anymore. I was completely, irrevocably, and helplessly in love with my boss's daughter, and in a few short weeks, I was supposed to leave her behind. All right, guys. Hope you are enjoying the story. If you are loving it, don't forget to give Yuri a thumbs up. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications. Grab on to something sturdy, because this is the exact moment the slow burn completely exploded and the entire summer went up in flames. We had just landed back in Sydney after those 5 days of absolute paradise on the island. Stepping off that private jet and driving back to the Whale Beach fortress felt like putting on a pair of heavy iron chains. The emotional walls between us were completely gone after the beach bonfire tears, but the real world was waiting for us, and it was suffocating. Victoria Sterling had scheduled this massive, ultra-formal family dinner with a bunch of international distributors, and the atmosphere in the mansion was so tense you could literally cut it with a knife. It was exactly 6 p.m., 1 hour before the dinner was supposed to start. I was in my tiny, cramped staff quarters in the guest wing, desperately trying to distract myself by organizing some silk fabric manifests on my laptop. Focus, Roxy. You're back in the real world now. She's the billionaire heiress, you're the temporary assistant. Keep your eyes on Paris. Do not think about how it felt to hold her on the beach. Do not, girl. Suddenly, my bedroom door violently bursts open. I jumped out of my chair, my heart instantly leaping straight into my throat, standing in the doorway, completely breathless and looking totally unspooled, was Shayla. And oh my gosh, guys, she looked impossibly beautiful. It was actually ridiculous. She was wearing this tailored ivory white designer silk blouse that looked elite against her stunning ginger hair, which was styled in sleek, elegant waves. But she was in a total panic. She was clutching the front of her top, her gorgeous ocean blue eyes wide, frantic, and staring straight at me. "Roxy, mate, you have to help me," she gasps, her low voice carrying this frantic, desperate tremor. I was getting ready for the dinner, and the top button on my blouse literally snapped off. My mother is already pacing the main dining room. If she sees me looking disheveled after the island trip, she is going to absolutely lose her mind. I scrambled over to my workbench, my hands shaking as I grabbed a needle and a spool of white silk thread. Okay, don't panic. Just take the blouse off quickly and I'll stitch it back on at the machine." "There's no time, Roxy," she says, stepping aggressively deep into my personal space, completely erasing the physical distance between us. "She's coming up the West Wing stairs in 10 minutes. Just sew it on, right now, while I'm wearing it." Guys, my brain completely short-circuited. "Wait, what? Sew it while she's wearing it? Are you actually insane, Shayla? That means I have to touch your chest. Universe, please give me strength. I am literally begging you right now." But I didn't have a choice. I swallowed hard, my face instantly bursting into a deep, prominent, warm pink blush as I stepped into her space. The contrast between my simple work trousers and her high society luxury was dizzying. I raised my trembling hands, holding the silver needle and thread, and leaned in close. The proximity was absolute, intoxicating torture, guys, because I had to stand mere millimeters away from her, my face hovering right over her collarbone. I could feel the intense, radiating heat of her skin cutting through the cool air of the room. The addictive aroma of her expensive perfume completely filled my lungs, and every single time she took a breath, the silk of her blouse brushed lightly against my fingers. I was trying so hard to focus on the tiny silver button, but my hands were shaking violently. "You're shaking again, Paris girl," Shayla whispered, her rough, quiet voice vibrating directly against my forehead, sending a violent jolt of pure electricity straight up my spine. "I'm trying." Not to poke you with a needle, Shayla, I whispered back, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. I forced my eyes to stay locked on the thread, desperately trying to finish the stitch. Why are you leaving, Roxy? She suddenly whispers, her voice breaking with this raw, agonizing vulnerability. My hands froze midair. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to keep sewing, refusing to look up. Because Paris has been my dream since I was 16, Shayla. You know that. And what about us? She whispers. Guys, the entire world completely stopped spinning. I froze entirely, the needle hovering millimeters from her skin. My chest felt completely tight. Us. Neither of us had ever said that word out loud before. It was out there now, hanging in the suffocating heat of the room, and it changed everything. Shayla, don't. I choked out, my eyes stinging with sudden hot tears. There is no us. In 2 months, I'm boarding a flight. You're inheriting a global empire. We live in completely different universes. I know how much Paris means to you, Roxy, she interrupts, and her breath was so hot against my mouth it made my limbs go entirely heavy. I know it's your dream. I respect it. I swear I do. I just don't know how to let you go. Before I could even blink, her long, elegant hands violently snapped upward, forcefully grabbing my wrists and pinning them flat against her chest over her pounding heart, completely dropping the heavy restraint she had been practicing for weeks. Her ocean blue eyes were wide, completely overflowing with tears, staring straight into my soul. I'm falling completely apart over you, Roxy, she sobbed, her voice a low, broken whisper. I'm literally drowning, and you're the only person who makes me feel alive. Guys, the final thread of my sanity completely snapped. All the weeks of unsaid words, the coffee thefts, the dangerous closet touches, the pool mouth to mouth, and the bonfire tears scattered like ash in the wind. I dropped the needle. I didn't hesitate. I didn't think about her mother, or the wealth gap, or the danger to my career. I lunged forward, grabbed the rich fabric of her ivory blouse, and slammed my mouth directly and passionately against hers against the edge of my sewing table. Oh my gosh, guys! It was a total devastating collision. Shayla let out this sharp, ragged intake of breath against my mouth as the absolute shock of my actions registered in her mind, and then she completely unraveled. Her hands instantly moved from my wrists to the sides of my face, her long fingers tangling deep into my pink hair with a fierce, possessive grip that locked me in place. She didn't pull away. She didn't hesitate. She kissed me like a woman starving, her full lips moving over mine with a deep, consuming hunger that stole the breath straight from my lungs. Every single nerve ending in my body ignited, a heavy, exquisite ache blooming deep in my chest. She shifted her weight, pulling me flush against her body until our silhouettes were completely intertwined, completely devouring me in the quiet heat of my staff room. Nothing existed in the entire universe except the bruising, passionate pressure of her lips and the frantic, violent rhythm of her heart slamming against her ribs. I was completely, utterly falling for her, and we were completely undone. The morning after that explosive kiss in my room, I woke up feeling like I was floating on a cloud. My lips were still tingling, my chest felt warm, and for about 5 minutes I actually allowed myself to believe that a future with Shayla was possible. You absolute rookie, Roxy. You broke the golden rule, you fell for the billionaire's daughter, and now the universe is about to violently correct your course. Brace yourself. At exactly 8:30 a.m., I was down in the main dining pavilion checking a textile delivery order when the double oak doors swung open. I expected to see Shayla coming to steal my flat white again, but my blood instantly turned to pure ice. Standing there, looking tall, terrifying, and radiating pure corporate venom, was Victoria Sterling. Her arms were crossed, and her eyes were fixed on me with this chilling, unadulterated fury. "My office, Roxy, now," she said, her voice dropping to a low, lethal hiss that made the hair on my arm stand up. I followed her into her massive executive study, my heart violently slamming against my ribs. The second the heavy timber door slammed shut, she didn't waste a single second. She threw a digital printout onto the glass desk. I looked down, and guys, my breath was completely snatched straight out of my lungs. It was an estate security camera still of the balcony from the beach night, and another image of us close together outside my quarters. "Did you honestly think you could hide this from me?" Victoria asked, stepping into my personal space, her voice dangerously calm. "You are a temporary working-class assistant, Roxy, a nobody with pink hair, and you've spent the last month manipulating my daughter, trying to use her last name as a ladder to claw your way out of the gutter. You're temporary, Roxy. My daughter is not. Shayla will still be a Sterling 10 years from now. Will you?" "I have never manipulated Shayla, Mrs. Sterling." I choked out, my eyes stinging with hot, furious tears. Quiet!" She cut me off like a physical blade, her expression an unyielding mask of frozen stone. "You are a social climber and a massive corporate liability. Your contract is terminated, effective immediately. Get off my property in 10 minutes. I swallowed the lump in my throat, trying to hold on to my pride. "Fine, I'll pack my things. Just wire my summer bonus to my account so I can secure my Paris fashion deposit, and you'll never see me again." Victoria let out this cold, cruel chuckle that made my stomach completely drop to the floorboards. "You aren't getting a single cent of that bonus, Roxy," she whispered, her eyes narrow and completely dead. "I've frozen the payout under a breach of contract clause, and if you ever try to contact my daughter again, I will personally ensure that every major design house from Sydney to the corporate offices in Paris knows your name. The fashion world is very small, Roxy. Reputation travels quickly. I will blackball you from this industry before your career even starts. Choose wisely, little girl. Is a fantasy with my daughter worth losing your entire future?" No. She took the money. She took the Paris deposit. Everything I've worked for since I was 16. Everything is crashing down at once. I have nothing left. Couldn't even speak, guys. The sheer suffocating betrayal and panic were paralyzing. I turned on my heel, marched back to my quarters, and packed my white sewing machine and my sketchbook into my boxes with hands that were shaking violently. While packing, the hardest thing wasn't losing the job. It wasn't even losing the bonus. It was knowing I hadn't gotten to say goodbye. The worst part? Shayla wasn't there. Her mother had deliberately sent her out to a high-profile corporate marketing summit in downtown Sydney at 5 a.m. just to isolate me. I couldn't call her. I couldn't text her. Victoria's security detail was literally standing in my room, watching my every move like guards in a fortress. 10 minutes later, I was standing outside the massive iron estate gates of Whale Beach in the pouring rain, clutching my heavy cardboard boxes. The cold Sydney downpour was soaking through my clothes, mixing with the hot tears streaming down my face. I was completely broken, entirely devastated, and staring into a black void of an empty bank account. The dream of Paris was dead. The girl I loved was locked inside a billionaire's cage, and I had never felt so utterly abandoned in my entire life. Somewhere inside that mansion, Shayla still thought I was coming back. 3 weeks had passed since Victoria Sterling threw me out of the Whale Beach fortress in the pouring rain. 3 weeks of absolute suffocating silence. I had blocked Shayla's number, not because I wanted to, but because her mother's threat was ringed in iron if I contacted her. My entire design career was dead before it even started. I had spent every single day working double shifts at a local cafe, scraping together whatever spare change I could just to afford a one-way standby ticket to France. I didn't have the grand tuition deposit anymore, but I told myself I'd knock on the academy doors and beg them to let me work the janitor shifts if it meant keeping my dream alive. Cut to departure day at Sydney International Airport. The international terminal was packed, chaotic, and completely overwhelming. I was standing right at gate 24, clutching my passport in one hand and my leather fashion sketchbook in the other. My long pink hair was tied back in a messy bun, and I was staring out the massive glass windows at the giant Qantas jet parked on the tarmac. "This is it, Roxy. You're boarding the flight. You survived the summer from hell. You're going to Paris. So why does your chest feel like a hollow black void? Why are you still looking over your shoulder hoping to see a flash of ginger hair? Stop it, mate. She's gone. She's a billionaire heiress, and you're just a girl boarding a plane alone. Life is not a romance movie, girl." The gate agent announced the final boarding call for my flight. I swallowed the painful lump in my throat, turned my back on the terminal, and took a slow step forward to hand over my boarding pass. And then Guys, the entire airport corridor violently erupted. Roxy! Roxy, mate, wait! My heart literally leaped straight out of my chest, my entire body locking up. I spun around on my heel, and my breath was completely snatched straight out of my lungs. Sprinting past the security barriers, completely ignoring the airport guards yelling behind her, was Shayla. And oh my gosh, guys, she was a total beautiful mess. Her stunning ginger hair was completely wild and rain-soaked, sticking to her pale cheeks. She wasn't wearing her usual pristine corporate suits or high-end designer silks. She was in a simple, rumpled white t-shirt, wet denim jeans, and sneakers. She was completely breathless, her chest heaving heavily as she ran full speed down the terminal floorboards. Her striking ocean blue eyes locked dead center onto mine with this manic, terrifyingly dark intensity. "Shayla?" I gasped, my passport literally slipping out of my fingers onto the floorboards. "Are you insane? How did you get past security? Your mother..." She didn't even let me finish, guys. She skidded to a halt right in front of me, completely erasing the physical distance between us. Her long, elegant hands violently snapped upward, forcefully grabbing the sides of my face, her fingers tangling deep into my pink hair with a fierce, possessive grip that locked me in place. "I don't care about my mother, Roxy," she shouted, her rough, gravelly voice breaking completely as thick, stinging tears spilled heavily down her cheeks. "She told me she threw you out. She told me she threatened your career. I spent the last 2 weeks tearing her corporate offices apart until I found out where you were, and then I made my choice." I blinked through my own hot tears, my pulse racing erratically. "Shayla, what did you do?" "I disowned her, Roxy," she whispered, her ocean blue eyes wide, raw, and swirling with this deep, unyielding obsession. "I walked into the boardroom this morning, handed her my corporate badges, and completely signed away my entire billionaire inheritance. I gave up the trust fund. I gave up the Sterling last name. I gave up their entire empire. She disowned her family. She walked away from billions of dollars. She gave up everything just to run through an airport terminal for me. Oh God, is this girl okay in her head? Holy heck. I am the choice. She actually chose me over her last name. I refused to accept. Before I could even process the absolute gravity of what she was saying, Shayla reached into her pocket with a sun-warmed, trembling hand and pulled out a single, crumpled international boarding pass. "Destination, Paris, France." "I'm not asking you to stay in Sydney, Paris girl," Shayla sobbed, a radiant, breathtakingly beautiful smile breaking through her tears as she leaned her forehead gently against mine under the terminal lights. "I know how much your dream means to you. I'm choosing to follow mine too. I don't care about their wealth. Build an empire with me in France, please." Guys, the final cynical walls of my heart completely crumbled to absolute dust. I let out a loud, sobbing laugh, lunged forward, and threw my arms securely around her neck, pulling her body flush against mine in a crushing hold. Our lips met in a devastating, passionate collision right there in the middle of Gate 24, completely devouring each other while the airport crowd watched in absolute shock. I didn't care about her mother. I didn't care about an empty bank account. She had completely ripped the high society script, and as we stood there intertwined, I knew I had finally found where I belonged. All right, guys. Remember how we left off with us literally making out at Gate 24 after Shayla disowned her entire family? Not her entire family. She just took a break from her mom's controlling spirit. We actually boarded that plane to France, but the drama didn't stop in the air. 6 months after we landed in Paris and moved into this tiny, cramped apartment. Oh, God, the apartment was tiny, but Shayla Nepo Baby was coping just fine hustling hard for both of us. One Sunday morning, a sleek black town car pulled up to our building. I expected it to be a lawyer handing us a lawsuit, but instead the driver handed Shayla a handwritten letter. It was from Victoria Sterling. No corporate letterhead, no legal threats. Just 5 words, meet me at the Ritz, alone. Shayla wanted to tear it up, but I looked into her ocean blue eyes and told her she needed closure. So, I went with her. We walked into this private, ultra-luxury dining suite at the Ritz Paris, and there was Victoria. She had completely dropped her terrifying, frozen stone corporate posture. She wasn't wearing her tailored blazer, she just looked exhausted, pale. Her shoulders were hunched, and when she saw us walk in together, her eyes didn't flash with fury. They looked completely hollow, welling up with thick, stinging tears. Shayla stood rigid, her ginger hair tied back, keeping her independent armor locked in tight. "If you're here to blackball Roxy again, Mum, save your breath." I walked away from the money. We're building our own life. Victoria let out this soft, incredibly broken sob, burying her face in her hands. Guys, the most ruthless fashion mogul in Australia was openly weeping in front of us. "I'm not here to fight you, Shayla." Victoria choked out, her voice a low, gravelly whisper stripped entirely of her criminal armor. She wiped her eyes, looking directly at us, and spilled the secret that completely shattered our brains. "I didn't throw Roxy out because I hated her, sweetie. I threw her out because I was absolutely terrified for you. Because I know exactly what it feels like to love a woman in this industry." Wait, hold the phone. Did the billionaire CEO of Sterling Fashion Group just say what I think she just said? Shut up. No way. My jaw is literally hitting the floor right now. 30 years ago, before I ever met your father, I was completely deeply in love with a woman, Victoria confessed, her voice trembling with this rare, agonizing vulnerability. But the board found out. The high society media tore us apart. They judged us, they humiliated us, and they completely destroyed her career. Then I met your father. When your father passed away, my heart died with him, and I buried myself in the business to build a shield. When I saw you and Roxy on that balcony, all that old trauma came screaming back. I thought if the world found out, they would exploit your weakness and destroy your throne, just like they did mine. I turned into a monster because I wanted to protect you from the pain I suffered. Shayla's breath hitched completely, her ocean blue eyes widening in total, breathtaking shock as she looked at her mother. The ancient, icy wall between them completely melted to dust right there in the room. "You should have told me, Mom." I hated the end troll. I just wanted to do what was best for me. My passion, everything, Mom. Victoria stood up, walked over to us with trembling hands, and looked straight at me. "Roxy, I am so deeply sorry. I insulted your talent, I froze your bonus, and I tried to exploit your career. You are brilliant, and you love my daughter for who she is, not her last name. I'm ready to support both of you with everything I have." She turned back to Shayla, a warm, proud smile breaking through her tears. "I'm not asking you to come back to Sydney, Shayla. If you want to be with Roxy, then that's where the business goes. I've already signed the paperwork to fund and build a brand new international flagship branch of the Sterling Fashion Group right here in Paris. And you are the official managing director. You get your dream, and you can travel back down to Australia to visit me whenever you're free." Guys, I let out this loud, sobbing laugh, my final cynical walls crumbling entirely. Shayla lunged forward, throwing her powerful arms around her mother's neck in a tight, crushing hug they hadn't shared in 15 years. The shadows of the high society world were officially gone. We hadn't just won our love, we had completely saved a family. If someone told me a year ago that I'd be standing here, I would have told them they were dead set dreaming. But the universe works in the most chaotic, beautiful ways. A full year had passed since the night Shayla ran through that airport terminal and flipped the entire corporate script. The fallout from that day had completely reshaped our lives. Victoria kept her word. She didn't just apologize. She funded a massive state-of-the-art flagship branch of the Sterling Fashion Group right here in Paris, appointing Shayla as the official managing director. They completely fixed their relationship, and whenever Shayla has a free weekend, she flies down to Sydney to visit her mom, keeping that family bond stronger than it's ever been. But our lives didn't just center around the corporate label, because Shayla kept her promise to me. She didn't let the shadows of her high society world swallow up the light we had found together. Instead, she helped me build a world of our own. Today was the official debut of my first independent student collection at the Academy. The showroom was packed, the cameras were flashing, and the reception was absolutely massive. By 9 p.m., the grand opening crowd had finally cleared out. The heavy glass doors were locked, and the warm, ambient studio lights were casting a soft golden glow over the quiet rows of garments. I was standing behind the polished oak drafting table, wiping down my measuring tools with this massive, contented smile on my face, when the double doors chimed softly. I looked up, and guys, That familiar, exquisite heat bloomed deeply in my chest. Shayla stepped into the showroom, shedding her long black wool coat and draping it over a nearby armchair. She was wearing this stunning emerald green silk blouse that matched the exact radiant color of her eyes, and her gorgeous ginger hair was cascading perfectly over her shoulders. She looked impossibly beautiful, dangerous, and completely captivating. Her sharp, authoritative posture completely softened the absolute millisecond her striking ocean blue eyes locked onto mine. She walked slowly and deliberately over to the counter, her leather boots making a distinct sound on the timber floorboards. She didn't say a word. She simply slid right around the drafting table, closing the final inches of physical distance between us until her chest was pressed lightly and warmly against my back. Her powerful, elegant arms wrapped securely, tightly, and possessively all the way around my waist, pulling me flush against her. She leaned down, burying her face deeply into the comfortable crook of my neck, breathing me in. Her warm breath was fanning across my skin, sending a delightful, addictive shiver straight down my spine. "You know," Shayla murmured against my mouth, her low, gravelly voice sending a rill through my veins. "You were supposed to be a summer job, Paris girl." I let out this loud, rich chuckle, leaning all my weight back against her chest. My final cynical walls entirely gone as I felt the steady, rhythmic sound of her heartbeat beneath my ear. "And you?" I whispered, turning my head slightly to look up at her beautiful profile. "We're supposed to be a distraction." All my life, I thought being unwanted was something I had done wrong. I spent years convincing myself that maybe I wasn't smart enough or important enough to keep. But as Shayla held me in that quiet Paris studio, refusing to let me go, I finally understood the truth. The problem was never me. I was just asking the wrong people to choose me. Shayla chose me. She chose me in the kitchen. She chose me on that balcony. She chose me in the middle of an airport terminal, and she chooses me again and again and again every single day. All summer, I thought I was chasing Paris. Turns out, I was running toward her too. 1 year ago, my job description became a total mess at 3 in the morning. Funny enough, that was the night I finally found where I belonged. And that's a wrap on today's story. I hope it got you. I hope you laughed. I hope you felt something. Because that's exactly why we're here. If you have a favorite moment, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you're new to GL Yuri Tales, welcome. You found your people. We drop brand new original GL stories every week. So hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a story. Before you go, I have something special to share. Channel memberships are now open. If you're enjoying these stories and want even more content, consider joining the channel. Members get early access to new videos, exclusive perks, custom stickers and badges, and special members-only content you won't find anywhere else. Your support helps me create more stories and bring even bigger projects to life. So if you'd like to support the channel and unlock some awesome extras, click the join button and become part of our members family today. Thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means everything. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, the best love stories are always the complicated ones. See you soon.